Dimaya is located in Maracaibo, the capital of the state of Zulia in northwestern Venezuela. This area is one of the poorest and most dangerous in the city, where city life is mixed with stone and dirt roads. Dreams there are limited, and some people think that to achieve you have to push the boundaries of what is acceptable. Kenny was born in Dimaya as Maria Final, the youngest of 4 siblings living in a house with crumbling walls and a sandy yard. She was given her mother's last name because she grew up not knowing her father. Kenny was known for her good looks. Her classmates and neighbors called her Beetroot when she was 12 years old due to her light eyes and pale skin that turned bright red when she blushed. Like other teenagers in her neighborhood, she loved to hang out with friends and neighbors dressed simply and wore minimal makeup. However, her simple lifestyle changed at a very young age when she met Macarena, a young girl who became her best friend for many years. They talked about Macarena, a young girl who lived in prison but was not actually a prisoner because her family couldn't afford to send her there, and her mother had to work hard to support her. When Macarena, who was 5 years older than Kenny, was left unattended at the age of 13, Kenny began going to parties. However, it was with Macarena that she first tried drugs and made risky decisions that led her into a very dark world from which it was difficult to get out. According to some, Macarena was in a relationship with a criminal nicknamed Queek, the head of the Maracaibo National Prison, better known as Sabanita. It is important to note that in Venezuelan prisons there is an organization called lead crime carriers. These people have great influence inside the prisons and have connections outside of them. Macarena introduced Kenny to this world where the carriers are responsible for drug trafficking, robberies, extortion and parties in prison. They also use material goods and are visited by different women. At the age of 18, on December 24, 2010, the criminal Astolfo de Jesus Balsa wanted to meet with her. She told the men where she would be that evening. Astolfo was a prisoner at the Sabanita prison and one of the leaders of the criminal organization known as Trendle North. A group of about 9 men picked her up from a nightclub and took her by car as a Christmas gift to one of the leaders of the Macarena prison. At the age of 22, he had a long criminal history including robbery, extortion, possession of weapons and murder of police officers. None of this matters to Kenny because she fell in love with him the moment she met him. He showered her with designer clothes, threw lavish parties and expensive clothes while she came and went from prison to his pleasure. Kenny became somewhat of a slutty girl and her presence was felt everywhere she went. She stopped taking life seriously and became only interested in partying, smoking, drinking, dancing and all the things she didn't have as a child. One of her friends said that Kenny is fearless and will do everything possible to fulfill her dreams of traveling, shopping and working as a model. In addition to the fact that Astolfo was her true love, he met all her requirements. But she also understood that there were other women in the prisoner's life. So one day Kenny decided to try her luck outside her home country of Venezuela. She is not sure how or when she made this decision, but according to her friends, a woman she met at one of the many parties advised her to use her physical attributes to achieve her dreams. Kenny took this advice to heart, dyed her hair red and went to Mexico in search of a better life. In her social networks, evidence of the gradual transformation of her body could be found. As well as the chaotic life that Kenny led, she continued to travel between Venezuela where she visited her family and maintained a relationship with Astolfo and also met several friends there, including Barbie, from whom she learned to exchange intimate cosmetic surgery services. However, everything changed after her great love died in a clash with the police on March 12, 2014. She did not have time for a funeral. When she eventually returned to Venezuela, she ordered a wreath with this letter, tattooed the name Astolfo on her right shoulder and played vallenato music as a sign of respect for her partner. The little girl was devastated by another untimely loss in June 2015 when her best friend Macarena was killed in an incident that authorities called a crime of jealousy. The moment Kenny was killed, it was also not disclosed to the country that she was already famous at the time, Mexico, as the most expensive doll at the exhibition. She dyed her hair blonde because she wanted to look like Paris Hilton. The girl, who had intense light eyes and an innocent appearance, stood out for her beauty. She gave up her dream of becoming a model and became an escort. The website where she was hired was associated with the La Union Tepito cartel, which ruled the underworld of Mexico and was involved in illegal activities such as robbery and extortion, and kidnappings. Kenny became the face of the site, significantly increasing the cost of her services. Although Kenny lived in a luxurious apartment with a stunning view of Mexico City, the girl never forgot about her family. She took care of her mother, sent her money, and dreamed of buying her a new house outside the poor people's quarter where she grew up. She claimed that she was a bad daughter. However, some family members claimed that she suffered greatly from the life that the girl led. She remains very attached to her native country, although Astolf was not the only man she dated in Venezuela. As it turned out, in 2016 she became pregnant with her last partner, Mauricio Houdini, but lost the child, in memory of her child. She got a tattoo of her name with the letters angel wings and a halo. During this period, Kenny continued to publish posts in which she discussed her lifestyle and showed off her dark side by posing for drug-related photos and flaunting her physique. But she also wrote messages with Brian Mauricio Gonzalez, who was born in Mexico City on July 7, 1992. He had a middle-class build with dark hair and a tattoo of his mother's name on his chest. His life was difficult and his family was not privileged. He lived in Tepito, a well-known area where many merchants abandoned traditional trade in favor of illegal activities such as drug dealing, selling pirated goods, and smuggling of household appliances. One of them was Mexico City's most notorious criminal. He had many friends and followers. Santiago Miranda Hernandez, also known as El Carrion, was the leader of the Los Rojas gang and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Jose Manuel Gonzalez, also known as El Puzzle, was a member of the La Union Tepito gang and died as a result of an attack by two men riding motorcycles. He gave Brian the alias which he began to use as Ezo. From now on we will call him by this name. He was the third consecutive commander of the gang La Union Tepito. When the couple first met, El Pasolini found himself at the center of an investigation by the prosecutor's office, and all of them were connected to attacks motivated by jealousy in April 2013 against Berenice's ex-husband and the mother of her daughter, who wanted to sue for custody of their daughter. Later that year in December, a new Berenice's boyfriend was beaten from work and threatened with a gun. A year and a half later, in July 2015, several shots were fired at El Pasolini's neighbor. According to police materials, the man ordered the neighbor to leave the house, accusing him of abusing the girl. When Kenny met Alpozol, a tumultuous relationship ensued between her and this man, considered one of the most brutal drug dealers and extortionists in a criminal organization that trafficked women and committed murders for hire. Although they were often seen together and liked to talk in restaurants, they also often argued. They claimed that they lived together and that one of Kenny's brothers knew about their relationship. It is unclear when the violence against Kenny began, but as already mentioned, their relationship was accompanied by threats from the very beginning. Alpozoli's insecurities made the girl's life unbearable. He went from threats to constant physical violence in July 2017 when Kenny posted the first photo on social media showing a wound on one of her arms. Her friends claimed that the man cut her hair so that she would not go out, but she chose to grow it and move on with her life. Despite their meeting on the site where Kenny offered his services, no actions on the girl's part could ease his jealousy. Other photographs from the time show Kenny posing with a long gun and drugs. When the girl found out who El Pozo was, she was actually horrified and wanted to run away from him. She tried to break off the relationship in September 2017, but El Pozo refused to let her. In October of the same year, the guy began a new relationship, this time with an Argentinian girl who worked at the same facility as Kenny. He also ridiculed and tormented her, forbade her to see other men, and told her to return to Venezuela. Her name was Dinsky Karen Helen. At 23, Kenny believed that the threats would stop if he entered into a new relationship. However, in fact, it was the other way around. El Pozo asked her to follow his new partner on social networks and warned her to monitor everything that Karen said while communicating with friends Kenny. She even claimed that Al Pozzoli was mentally ill and heard him trying to extort money from Karen. She also said that Zoli hurt people for fun and not for payment, and that she personally advised the girl to be careful and not trust anyone. The relationship between Elsa and Karen lasted a maximum of 2 months. Shortly before this incident, on December 7, 2017, the lifeless body of a girl was discovered in a hotel in the Benito Juarez district of Mexico City. El Pozzoli, using a false name, wrote to Kenny asking if she offered intimate services, and after she answered, he came to her and beat her so badly that her face was swollen under her eyes. She had bruises and the man broke down, cut off her hair with her hand and almost killed her. "I have 5 stitches on my head. Just look at all those cuts." In December, Kenya was the victim of another attack by this man. He claimed to have killed other women and threatened to kill her if she did not return to Venezuela. After each attack, Kenny recorded several videos to document her injuries and the threats she received. In one of them, she begged Elle to give her time to leave. At the last moment, God seemed to intervene and let me go, but I almost died. He hit me about 4 times all over my body. How can I go to the airport this way? Just now the doctor advised me to take a bath, wash everything off and put stitches. Look at me. I have a large wound both on the side and near the head, so she will stitch me up there. And after that my arm broke. The girl disappeared from sight for several months. I unsubscribed from the page on which I offered my services and stopped using social networks. Kenny most likely believed that El Pazzoli would settle down in this way and allow her to stay in Mexico. The stunning young woman told her friends about her plans on Friday, February 23, 2018, and they decided to meet later. However, Kenny never showed up. According to her family, they searched for her and notified the authorities. Time passed, and she continued to disappear. Then it turned out that the body of a woman was discovered by the police in the Jardina de Santa Clara area of the municipality of STS, which is located next to the school. The area is considered the epicenter of femicide in Mexico. The young victim was the victim of a horrific crime. A plastic bag was placed over her head and tied around her neck to strangle her. In addition, she was brutally beaten, raped, and had acid spat in her face. What's more, her eyes were missing. When an image of a young woman appeared on a website that was being investigated at the time for alleged illegal activities, Mexican authorities linked Kenny's case to other murders of women that were linked to the same website. Kenny's friends went to the morgue to identify the body and confirmed that it was Kenny Phenol. They also told the police that she was a model. The day before Kenny's murder, she told her mother and other family members that she wanted to return to Venezuela. After the media learned about the incident and asked the authorities to begin the repatriation process, Kenny's body was returned to Venezuela 33 days after it was found. For months after Kenny's death, videos surfaced of the girl in which she accused her abuser El Paul of that she killed her. She also discussed death threats that Paul had made against her and the possibility that the man was the killer. Kenny was found with bloody, disheveled hair and multiple injuries to his face. Thanks to these videos, which were distributed on the internet by various media, the police investigation received new evidence. One of the recordings was made for a friend in which she spoke in detail about the attacks she suffered while talking on her mobile phone camera. The girl left her ex-partner a shocking request asking him to give her time to recover before returning to Venezuela. Kenny told him that the wound on her head would require 10 stitches. And she also promised that she would leave Mexico as soon as the swelling on her face subsided. In their comments to the media, Kenny's family also linked El Pasolini to the girl. They said that the girl and the gang leader had a violent relationship. El Pazzoli seemed untouchable even though municipal and federal officials knew about his place of residence. The Attorney General's office even had photographs of his parents. El Pasolini was released only because he provided local authorities with many documents and had an arrest warrant for Kenny's murder. In addition, the capital's Ministry of Economy allocated him 3,000 pesos monthly to help merchants. Authorities conducted an intelligence operation for months, monitoring his whereabouts and waiting for the ideal opportunity to apprehend him without sparking unwarranted conflict. Journalist Carlos Jimenez reports that a year after Kenny's murder on February 4, 2019, agents waited patiently until El Pasolini's bodyguard opened fire before detaining him. He was found passing near a metro station with a woman who, like Kenya, was from Venezuela. When the criminal was detained, he burst into tears and begged the police not to beat him. The woman accompanying him asked the police to take her to the National Institute of Migration so that she could be returned, and it seemed that this procedure saved her life. Your nation. Mexico City's Secretariat for Security and Citizen Protection reports that the capture of El Pazzoli not only put an end to one of the worst cartels in the city but also resolved 3 cases: the death of Kenny Karen and the case of Rales Baltazar, a Mexican citizen whose criminal record was longer than that of El Pasolini, who was at least partially responsible for the deaths of children over the previous 2 years and was also the leader of La Unión Tepito. He was instrumental in solving several crimes when it was alleged that the police found 10 bags of illegal drugs in one of his cars. He was reportedly questioned by several officials after this. Despite all the evidence linking El Pasolini in Mexico City, on Saturday, November 19, 2022, the man was sentenced to only 5 years in prison for petty drug distribution. After almost 3 years in jail, the man was released. He served just over half of his sentence because drug trafficking is not considered a serious crime in the Mexican legal system. Then the man was publicly accused of committing a serious crime, so the prosecutor's office appealed this decision. However, prosecutors were unable to provide sufficient information and evidence to establish a clear connection between him and the crimes. El Paz Zola was released from prison, but he continued to act as if nothing had happened and began committing crimes with precision. As a result, members of the police intelligence and investigation team completed investigative and operational tasks. When police approached the car for a routine check on Friday, October 13, 2023, they arrested El Pasolini, a woman of Venezuelan origin, while on patrol and suggested that the car might be connected to a criminal act in which one of the group members was allegedly traveling. Rodriguez, the Civil Secretariat of Security, a 30-year-old organization, said the couple's backpack, which contained cash, cocaine and other illegal items, was taken during the arrest. El Pasoli was considered a priority target due to his violent past when the two were brought to the Attorney General's office. The man's lawyers demanded his release during the hearings that followed his detention. On October 20th, a judge finally sentenced Mauricio Gonzalez, aka El Pozo, to pretrial detention for a number of crimes against life. The judge ruled that the defendant must remain in prison until the court decides whether to charge him with weapons possession, kidnapping, extortion and murder. Although he was unable to obtain any new information on the case, El Pozo is reportedly still in custody awaiting trial. Friends, write your opinion in the comments, and also subscribe to the channel and watch my other videos. Thank you all.